And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. You're tuned in to Tapped Out. Hosted by Brendan Tobin and Sean Levine. Only on the BetQL network.
We're now 2 weeks away from UFC 285. John Jones versus Cyril Gane. We'll break that down in our final segment of the show. Welcome back into Tapped Out here on the BetQL network with Jake and Brendan. I'm the sports machine, Sean Levine. Are you a conspiracy guy, BT? Are you like a Loch Ness Monster, aliens, crop circles kind of guy?
You mean I'm a facts guy? Yup.
Okay. Yes, my man. I knew I liked you for a reason. All right, so there's definitely some sort of funky business going on. But what about in our world? What about in the world of MMA? I'm going to throw out a conspiracy theory. You tell me if you believe in it or not. Remember a few years ago when Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor stepped into a boxing ring? It went, how far did it go? 9 rounds?
9 rounds.
It went a while. 9. All I remember is that I kept saying, oh my gosh, I can't believe that Conor's hanging around with them. In the first couple of rounds, I think you could argue Conor took at least 2 early on. Do you believe that at any point Floyd could have ended that fight?
Oh man! So are you asking me? Do I think Floyd was carrying him? Like, is that your conspiracy here?
Yeah. Do you think that because it was going to make more money and people were going to go ooh and ah, that Floyd decided to play with his food?
Somewhat. I think Floyd's a very smart fighter, and I think that they all knew that Conor McGregor was going to gas out because that's usually what Conor does, and fighting 10 rounds at that pace is a lot different, and Conor looked pretty gas after 4 rounds. So yes, kind of. I don't think that he was completely carrying him and that like he was, holding back. I think that it was strategic and that he got to a point, because I feel like Conor probably could have taken, when the fight was stopped, it's not like Conor was going to get face planted. I felt like the ref did stop in because, he's like, this guy's an MMA guy. Let's be a little bit careful. They were already being pretty tight with Conor with some of the hammer fist stuff. So, no, I don't think that Floyd could have knocked him out whenever he wanted, but I do think it was by design to let it go a little bit longer.
You say face plant. I saw Tyron Woodley get face planted by Jake Paul. A lot of people think because Jake Paul's got such deep pockets and because he wants to build a name for himself that he basically paid off Tyron Woodley to take a dive. Which side do you want?
I feel like if I say that, then I am trying to cover up for me just being loud wrong.
Absolutely.
But
that's what you're going to do. By the way, right when we were doing a show, and I remember Brendan said, there's no way that Tyron Woodley ends up getting knocked out. It can't happen. Actually, I think what you said was Tyron Woodley's probably going to knock out Jake Paul. So what say you now?
You asked me, said, if somebody's going to knock out. I remember the segment. You said, if somebody's going to get knocked out tonight, who's it going to be? And I said that it's obviously going to be Woodley getting to knock out Jake Paul. There's no way I thought that Jake Paul was going to knock him out. And honestly, if you do look at it, why did he lower his hands? It makes no sense. That entire fight, he was fighting it safe. It didn't even look close. And then all of a sudden, just right down, whomp, just big right hand and puts him out. That one makes a lot more sense than your Conor one, I got to say.
No, they're about to call you Charmin or Angel Soft because you're covering your butt right now. You know damn well that Jake Paul, yeah, you're right what you said. The fight was pretty boring. But at this point, I think the Jake Paul conspiracy theorists need to be quiet. Like, what else are you going to say? At this point, you thought that he wasn't going to beat Nate Robinson. You thought that it was funny business against Ben Askren. You thought it was funny business against Tyron Woodley 1, Tyron Woodley 2. You might not like him, but if at this point you're just not giving him credit because you're a hater.
I agree with that. I think that people, I think the thing that is impressive about Jake Paul is he does certainly look like he trains very hard. He definitely seems like he doesn't look like he doesn't know what he's doing when he's in there. Like I've seen some of these YouTubers who go in there, it's awful showcases all the time. And so I definitely think that he looks competent enough to go against guys who have made their living in combat sports, and that you should give him some credit. But he's not going to get credit by the boxing community. It's just not going to happen. They're sticklers. It's like here's the order of sports sticklers. There's baseball Hall of Fame writers, and then boxing media. And it's like that's your level of stick in the muds. We'll never give anybody credit for anything.
So this is a conspiracy theory that came out of my living room. I made this one up myself. All right, but I think I'm onto something here. Before I tell you who it is, once Dana is done, whether Dana is no longer the head of the UFC next year, or 10 years, or 50 years down the line, do you think there's anybody in place that you've kind of thought of before that maybe could fill his shoes? Have you ever thought of that?
Yeah, I think the guy who I think would be pretty good at it would be DC. I think Daniel Cormier would be really good at it as far as like promoting, being the face of it for both guys. I think that he would be good at it. I think Chael Sonnen would be good at it. I think those are the types of guys you want. You're really charismatic former fighters.
So he has told us before that he basically has handpicked who the next guy is going to be, but he's never said who it is. Funny enough, those two names that you just brought up, I think, make the most sense. They've already been in the promotion. They're very skilled with the tongue. They're both very smart, articulate, and all these different things. So absolutely, I think it could work with either one of them. Let me throw one out there. I know this is just completely nuts, and you're just going to tell me how stupid it is. But hear me out before you do.
All right.
What about Ariel Helwani? I know that they have huge beef. I know that there's no way he turns it over to him. But have you ever seen Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory? I'm sure they showed that to you in
yes.
5th grade or something, right?
Yes.
Okay. Remember how that worked? That basically Charlie had to go through and pass all the tests, right? That he had to go through all the things and everybody else failed along the way. Don't you think that maybe Dana's been really harsh on Ariel because he's just wondered if he could pass the test, and then at the end he gets to ride off into that weird elevator that didn't have a ceiling, and I don't know where they went. All I'm saying is at the end, you don't think Ariel can get the Chocolate Factory?
I'm not saying Ariel Helwani couldn't do Dana White's job, but as far as like promoting the fights, I mean, hell, like he's one of the better promoters of the sport out there for sure. I think Dana White would rather sell off the UFC to whomever and shut down shop before he gave the keys over to Ariel Helwani. What the hell were you smoking today?
Well, again, Willie gave Willie, is that his name? Willie? No, yeah, Willie. It was his factory. Willy Wonka.
He never made Willy Wonka cry.
If you don't say Willy Wonka in full, I just realized, and just call him Willie, it sounds really weird. Like if it was just Willie and Charlie, I feel like you need to give their names anyway. You're saying he doesn't get the Chocolate Factory. That's fine. Conspiracy theory. Anderson Silva took a dive against Chris Weidman at 162.
Nah, I don't think so. A lot of people thought that he, had this whole thing where he was a little bit tired of being on top and that there was that relief and whatnot. But no, I think that he was one of these guys that just thought, no, I can play with this guy and do my antics and I'm never going to get beat. And no, I don't think that was a dive. No.
That's one of those moments, I will say, one of the top 5 moments where I had to jump off my couch. Well, I've got a lazy boy, but I had to jump off of it. It happened with Juliana Pena and Amanda. It happened with Conor and Nate 1. It happened with back in the day with Alistair Overeem and Brock. Like, it doesn't happen that often, but that to me was one of those where it was just, I guess, so unexpected.
I do remember doing like shows in the aftermath of that. I do remember a lot of people thinking that not that Anderson took a dive, but that he beat himself in a lot of ways because of how little.
Oh, he definitely beat himself. 1,000% he beat himself.
Yeah, how little respect he gave Chris Weidman. But no, I think Weidman, first of all, yeah, I just think Weidman put it on him, and that's on Anderson. If he wanted to go defend that way, then big mistake, not taking a dive or a conspiracy in that.
Imagine that level of fighting, getting locked in there with a trained killer and just putting your hands behind your back and sticking your chin out. Like, what are you doing, dude? I know that you're the great Spider Silva. Unbelievable that would actually happen. And I love the entertainment aspect of it. Like, I loved when, we saw Nick Diaz against Anderson Silva just sit out in the middle of the octagon. Again, it's like, bro, I don't know if I would do that. It's fun to watch, but might not work great for you. The most recent, I would say, conspiracy theory at UFC 279, Hamzat Chimaev was supposed to take on Nate Diaz, and then Hamzat missed weight by 1 million pounds. A lot of people think that the card wasn't selling great, so they need to shake it up a little bit. So they ended up having Hamzat fight on the undercard so Nate could win. He did. He fought Tony Ferguson. Do you buy into any of that?
No, I didn't buy into any of that, and I really didn't understand it because I felt like that they had too much invested in Hamzat, and the whole point of it was to see, was this going to be that big of a slaughter? You know, like I didn't think that putting him up against Kevin Holland and giving Nate Diaz a more favorable matchup, I don't feel like that sold anything better. Certainly made more compelling matchups when we let up, and well, I guess we were off at that time, but it certainly made more compelling matchups. But I don't think that they were sell better. I think the whole freak show element of that fight was the sell. That I can't believe they're doing Nate like this, that they're sending him out of the company to go get killed by Hamzat. No, I just think Hamzat didn't make weight, and that they went the direction of him fighting, Kevin Holland, because, they had a little bit of a beef. It made sense.
He became a heel, though, right? Hamzat, ultimately went from being likable to becoming a guy that, I don't know if he gets booed next time. He probably does. I bet next time he makes the walk, he gets booed. A lot of people think that Dominic Reyes beat John Jones. Do you buy into that?
Is that a conspiracy, or is that just your opinion?
I think I guess it's more my opinion. I actually think John won the fight, but there's a lot of people that tell me Dominic Cruz did. Dominic Reyes.
I get it. I thought that there's definitely an argument. That's one of those where it's very similar to last week, where I think it's you're taking on the great John Jones. The underdog has this great performance. We feel like he should get the nod, and it felt like almost very boxing, like the champion gets the favorable scorecards in that one. So I don't think that it was corruption. I didn't feel like the judges gave John the nod. I just think that this is a hard sport to judge, and John got the rub that night, but I don't feel like the fix was in.
For the record, I don't love it, but I also have no problem with it. If there's a close fight, giving the edge to the champion, basically, if you're going to dethrone the champion, you really got to beat him. You either have to knock him out, sub him, or it has to be a very convincing win. And if it's close, that's the benefit of the champion. And again, I know that's not necessarily fair, and the judges all see it a little bit different. But if it's a close fight like that, and he's John Jones, and he's defended the belt a handful of times already at that point, to me, if you're going to take it from him, you really have to take it from him. And that wasn't enough from Dominic Reyes.
I think, yeah, and to swing it back to last week, I think that's one of the things that kind of annoyed people with Islam's defense of his title was that, he kind of ran out the clock, it felt like, in that fourth round. It was a beautiful takedown, don't get me wrong, but okay, great, you can hold him here, and you could but you're not doing anything. You clearly can't get a submission to choke him out, and he's, basically – we're just at a standstill here, and he's punching you in the back of the head. And it almost felt like at some point Islam basically gave up trying to get the submission. So what do we do with that? Because they are trying to go away from and scoring fights. You can't just lay on top of a guy and run out the clock and win fights. They're really trying to snuff that out in the sport. This is not him, he's obviously got his back in the situation, so it's a little bit different, but it does leave a little bit of an empty feeling where one round, how do we score? One guy has you control from his back the entire time, but really can't do anything with you. And then the other fight, he's wailing on you, he's taking you down. And those are the same in this sport. It's tough.
I've got the answer. You want the answer? I got it for you.
Sure.
Open scoring. Just let us know what's going on, because if I'm right and it was 2-2 going into the fifth round, then those judges must have not been watching the fight if they don't think that Volkanovski took the fifth round. Just watch the last 2 minutes of it when Islam was on his back. So all I'm saying is there's no reason. In fact, let me ask you this. What is the counter argument? Why do we – the only thing I can think of is this, that if a guy's up 2-0 that he coast in the third round. Well, a lot of times the guy knows if he's up 2-0 anyway, so in theory he could coast. If that's it, we should have open scoring, man.
I guess the only other argument to that would be that basically what we saw from Islam, would he try and do that as soon as he gets a lead and just goes to – because he kind of did that anyway. He felt like he had a lead, so it felt like he basically just dragged around just to pocket it and make sure that he gets the win. If he knew already that he was up 3-1, how does he go about? Does he even engage in that fifth round? That's the big problem with open scoring. But I think ultimately I agree with you. I think that the benefits – outweigh the worries, outweigh the downfalls of it. That's the only thing that you got to worry about. Those is, will we have more guys, especially grapplers, trying to run out the clock if they know that they already have a lead?
We're the only sport though Like every other sport at every other level knows what they need to do to win the game if they need to come back.
Yeah, I'm with you, dude. Like it's a crazy thing in that we have to rely upon this subjective stuff. Everybody's at a different angle, and it drives a lot of people nuts that we're at that spot. That everybody is in a place where, you know, what are they seeing? What is this guy seeing? And then they see a completely different thing every single night.
It's the only thing that I can honestly say I hate about the sport. I love everything about it, but I hate the scoring system. I wish I had a better solution than open scoring. Coming up next, we're going to go ahead and put a bow on this thing and tap out of here. We'll give you our thoughts on John Jones and Cyril Gane, which is now 2 weeks away, and work our way all the way up and down that card and keep you updated on what's going on right now in Las Vegas. You're locked into the BetQL Network.